yesterday, as I was talking about handling things in our lives and experiencing things in our lives, I was thinking about how this virus is affecting all of us in so many ways. Some ways it's affecting all of us exactly the same, and in some ways it's affecting each of us individually and differently. But I've been really trying to look at the science myself. I am not a scientist. I would never give any sort of a briefing on the virus, although I think that's kind of what I'm going to do today, because I'd like to sort of give you my perspective on the virus. And I came up with an analogy that as soon as I share it, some of you might go, oh my gosh, and just hang up. And that's okay. And my mother, thank goodness she's not listening when I actually talk about it. But the formula that I came up with early on, and I have been, where I'm getting my knowledge from this, just so you'll know, is from the news media, of course, but also I've been Googling a lot of aspects having to do with coronaviruses. This is not a new coronavirus. I mean, this is definitely a new coronavirus. That's why it's called the novel coronavirus. And as we shared once before, the reason it's called COVID-19, you probably already know. CO stands for corona, VI stands for virus, and D stands for disease. And it erupted in 2019, and that is why it is called the COVID-19 virus. Now, we have had a lot of opinions in different directions, one way or the other, and the important thing to me is the science. Now, has the science been exact since the very beginning of this? Absolutely not. Has it been correct in every step of the way? No. But then again, science rarely is. So that doesn't really concern me. The fact that we were initially told, well, you don't really need to wear a mask, and now we're being told that it's the number one thing that you can do, does not make me angry or question the scientists. It helps me to understand that the understanding and the perspective on this virus is an evolving thing. So I want to talk today about the virus itself. And you see, I've come up with this little playful formula. And there I am with my mask with the smiley face on it. You know, I told you one of the biggest challenges, and we did a JumpStart about this, one of the biggest challenges of walking around with people without masks, people with masks, is human beings have what is called a negativity bias. And the first thing we do is whenever we look at someone, as animals, we decide whether or not they're a mate or they're a threat, or neither of the above. If someone is wearing a mask, they tend to appear to be more of a threat because we cannot see if they are smiling. When I teach speakers how to speak from the stage, I teach them this formula that I developed from reading the book, The Charisma Myth, PAW. Power, attention, and warmth. Human beings only have one way of showing warmth, and that is through our smile. Now, we convey it both through our lips and through our eyes. That's a far genuine smile than just our mouths, as most of us know. And with a mask, it's difficult. So what I did was I drew a smile on it. The thing is, I tend to look like the pumpkin from the Nightmare on Halloween or Nightmare at Christmas. I think it's not something that makes me look warm. I think I look a little bit more like Tim Curry in It. So takeaway there, if you're going to draw a smile on your mask, make sure that you don't make it look like a leering grin. So the formula is I times E equals D. Intensity times exposure equals death. All right. I came up with this earlier when I was listening to an interview. I listened to COVID-19 Fact versus Fiction every day. It's a podcast. There's another one, which is also, it's all science-based. And so I've been listening to those. And when it became... Here's how I began to understand the virus. When we opened up again here in the Keys and businesses began to open up, I went to the yoga studio, and to their credit, they had marked off all of the mat spaces so that everyone's face would be about 6 feet away, no matter what you were doing, from one another. And I was in the classroom, and it was a very strenuous yoga class. And so there was a lot of sweating on my part, excuse me, more than anybody else's. And a lot of people were in there, and you could smell the sweat from other people, and you could smell their breath, and you could smell their bodies. All right. Now, being 6 feet apart is not going to do much good when you've got a virus that is a vapor-borne virus that is in the air all the time. There are vapors, water vapors in the air all of the time. If it weren't, we would be in bad shape. Most of the air is a lot of water vapor, and so it gets carried in there. By the way, I made the choice not to return to the yoga studio, and I let the woman know. The reason, by the way, that it was that way was that the owner chose to turn off the air conditioning and the fan during the class. Now, she had reasons as to why she felt she needed to do that and why she felt what she was doing was adequate. I didn't tend to think so. And again, we've got to think of this as airborne. Now, if I'm smelling people's bodies and their breath, because there is no circulation, then I'm going to possibly, if a person there is infected, much more likely that I'm going to become infected. And I did get an email from the owner of the studio after I had made the decision not to return, telling me that someone 2 mats over from me had tested positive for the coronavirus. Of course, she wanted to be very clear that it was not contacted in her studio. We don't know. We really don't know. Does not matter. The point I'm trying to make is that what I got early on was this formula: intensity times exposure equals death. This is why frontline workers are in so much greater risk than you or I. People who are actually dealing with people who are sick with the coronavirus, by intensity, I mean the level of intensity the virus has had on the person's system. Now, there are a lot of people, as we know, who are walking around without symptoms or appear to be having no symptoms whatsoever or minimally, and they are actually carriers. Those are called asymptomatic people. And those people are very, very dangerous because they don't know they have it, and because they don't, they feel like they are fine, and therefore they feel like they can interrelate with other people on an ongoing basis with minimal impact to themselves or to others. People, however, who are dealing with people, working in hospitals, you're dealing with lots of people, so there's a huge amount of intensity, okay? Me walking down overseas highway and wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, if I pass someone, you've got the ocean breeze or the bay breeze blowing pretty much all the time, plus we're not going to be around each other. So if I walk past somebody and they're very sick, but the intensity is not something that the exposure is there long enough, then I'm not going to D equals die. All right. This is a very serious virus, and that is why I took the choice of using D equals die as opposed to S equals sick, because I just want to remind us that there are children as young as 14 who are dying from this. There are children who are becoming infected to this, who are getting their hearts and their bones affected for the rest of their lives. So this is serious business. So here's my analogy. I remember one time I was standing in Preservation Hall in New Orleans. Now, when you say Preservation Hall and you hear the Preservation Hall Jazz Band, until you've been there, you think a hall. You think something like the Arch Center in Miami or the Sprint Center in Kansas City. No. The Preservation Hall is about twice the size of the room I'm sitting in. And we were in there and listening to the jazz. And it's standing room only. I think they've actually put some benches. I was in there again in July. Anyway, the very first time I was there, someone broke wind in that room, okay? And it's so bad that I remember this 10 years later, okay? Now, don't know where it came from, but I can tell you it worked its way over to me. And it was intense, okay? And I think if I had E been exposed to it long enough, I would have D died, all right? The point I'm trying to make is that what has come for me, and this may be the point that I lose every last one of you, but to me, the coronavirus is like a fart. All right? If you're in a room and someone rips it, It's eventually going to get to you, and the closer you're standing to that person, the worse it's going to be. And if there's no breeze blowing, then you're definitely going to get it. Now, if you're wearing a mask, what do? If we're in a room and someone breaks wind, we tend to cover our faces as quickly as possible. What is that? A face covering. It is a face covering. This is actually something I use to clean my glasses, but it looks like a mask, right? We cover our faces when somebody breaks wind. And not only that, we don't just cover our nose, we cover our mouth and vice versa. So covering our mouth is a natural reaction to something that is airborne and noxious. And let me throw one more thing out to you. There are people out there who are not doing what George Carlin called the SBD, the silent but deadly. They are doing the deadly but no smell. There are people around you who are intensely ill, and you may or may not know it because they are asymptomatic. So all of this to come back to follow the CDC guidelines, stay at least 6 feet away from other people, wash your hands 20 minutes anytime you go out or touch something. Not 20 minutes, 20 seconds, you know what I mean. And the other thing is wear a mask. Because if someone masks themselves and you mask yourself, every mask cuts it by about 30%. You can't do a lot about the intensity, especially because of the people who are asymptomatic and are going around exposing themselves to you. But you can do something about your exposure time. Minimize your time around other people. I got to say once again, living down here in the Keys and where I live in a condo. Many of you have seen the view. I'm on the top floor overlooking the bay, 5 floors up. And so I can see all the tourists. I can see them walking around. I can see them at the pool because a lot of people who are here are tourists. Are they wearing masks? No. Are they practicing social distancing? Absolutely not. It's like one grand Darwin experiment. If you haven't looked up the Darwin Awards, it's for people who do things outrageously stupid, and die as a result. But in their stupidity, strengthen the gene pool by simply no longer being able to reproduce. Seeing people walking around, no masks, close together, it's frightening. And I'm going to close with one thing having to do with the media. My media tends to be, as I've shared with you before, the New York Times, CNN, etc. Do I think it's absolutely right? No. Do I think that you should follow my media? No. I will tell you, though, what I find interesting is that I went to CNN's news page, and and try this. I invite you to try this. If you want to understand why some people don't think the coronavirus is as big of a deal as it is, then I invite you to do this. Go to the CNN page and hit Command F on a Mac or Control F on a PC and search for COVID or coronavirus and see how many times it appears on CNN and see how many times it appears on Fox News's homepage. You will see that it barely appears on the Fox News homepage, and it appears dozens, if not hundreds of times on the CNN page. People who watch Fox News think CNN people are alarmists. People who are CNN watchers think Fox News people have their head in the sand or elsewhere. And the bottom line is that somewhere in the middle is the truth. So how about we acknowledge the truth that I times E equals D, that intensity times exposure equals death, and do everything we can to minimize it, while one of the 24, and I checked this morning, there are 24 vaccines that are in stage 3 trials, stage 3 human trials, 24 around the world right now, 24. So we just got to stay safe in the meantime, y'all. I times E equals D. All right, let me go back in. I'm running a little long. I know I got a little preachy this morning, and I knew that was going to happen, but this is just something. I want to be doing this a year from now, and I want to see every single one of you here with me. Okay? That's important. Lisa Dixon's checking in with a wave, says hello. She's in Scotland where masks are compulsory in all shops and businesses. Today's been a very international day. I haven't seen our friends from India in a while, but today we've got a lot of people from all over the world, Ireland, England, Scotland, etc. I apologize. Thank you. CBD, it shows my age. Love this. So important to understand the silent but deadly. SBD, you mean. Oh, from it's Puerto Rico. Stupidity reigns here too. Yes. I think we will have been guilty of a potential Darwin Award, says Ed. Yeah, as you guys are coming back in, I want to make a comment here. I was watching a movie last night. I forget what it was, and they were making a distinction between two brothers. And they said, no, he's ignorant. He's stupid. Ignorant, you can educate. Okay? I don't want to point fingers and I don't want to say stupid. I don't call the people who are here stupid. That's easy in my mind, and it makes me superior, and it doesn't solve the problem, and it makes me less likely to give them space. I would say that these people probably get their news media from a place that does not simply talk about it. So at least that's true in the United States. So no criticism to you, dude, for using the word stupidity. I just try, Rosie, I beg your pardon. I try and stay away from that. I don't, those of you who are close to me will know that sometimes I'll go, what an idiot. Like the other day I was in the grocery store and went through, got the clean cart. My hands were clean. I was wearing a mask and everything. And my cart was on the side and it was in the way of somebody. And this person with an ungloved hand just came up, grabbed my cart and moved it. And I thought, I can't use my card anymore, you idiot. That's what I thought. So, anyway, stay safe and no fear. SBD, yes, says Rosie. My father-in-law died from being vaccinated. I will never voluntarily be vaccinated. I would love to know more about that, Lynn, because they say that, yes, that is actually, and I'm going to launch on this, that's actually one of the problems, is that a lot of people don't believe in vaccinations today. The number of people who die from vaccinations as opposed to people who die from not being vaccinated are infinitesimal. I would consider the world expert on vaccinations right now to be Bill Gates, and I stand behind a lot of what he says because that's a man who has... I don't agree with a lot of things he's done, but I think he is certainly doing the best he can with trying to make the world a better place. Patty, and by the way, Lynn, that is not to negate the death of your father-in-law. My heart goes out to you that he was one of those people that happened to. Research, yes, we are all sorry for you, Lynn. Time for our meditation group to get together. Wow, I have gone on today, and I knew I probably would. Thank you all for being with me and staying with me. We've had a very large number of you stay with me. I was a little uncertain as to how many of you would continue given the topic. Today we are going to be, this is our meditation image. Today this is our close-up. I thought we needed something bright. I think it's because it's been raining so much here. Look at me. I'm a flower. I look like something in a high school, not a high school, but an elementary school class. So agendas everywhere in that world, says Patty Gay Young. Yes, I would agree with that. And that's why they're saying, I listened to an entire podcast from a health expert who said, basically, even when we get a vaccine, getting us to 70%, which is the herd immunity thing, is going to be very, very difficult because of people who are afraid of vaccines. And they're even saying that people who are anti-Trump people will not take the vaccine if it becomes FDA approved under Trump, but they will under Biden. And there are people who are saying vice versa. So you know what, friends? I love you all. I've kicked this dog around the block enough. So I am going to say goodbye because I want to go and meditate with my friends. Join us if you'd like. ComplaintFreeMeditation.com. Make it a great day. We're going to be talking about Hamilton starting tomorrow. I've been listening. I've been driving people around me crazy because I listen to it over and over again. And believe it or not, there is some great, I'm going to be pulling certain lines from Hamilton. There's a song that Lynn not Lin-Manuel Miranda, but Leslie Odom Jr. sings that I absolutely love. And anyway, there's just some powerful, inspiring lines in this musical. So whether you've heard it or not, I'm just going to pull the lines and give you the inspiration. So I hope you'll join us starting tomorrow. Everybody, make it a great day. Thank you again for the first-timers who are here. And if you are here and have been here recently, be sure and click share. That's how we get new people. Enjoy today. Love you. See you tomorrow. Hamilton.
No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more